Oh, I think I'm going to sneeze now. That was a legit sneeze. That was a legit sneeze. Maybe this is part of the sort of fractious nature of the pre-Pkwak people. YouTube, welcome. We are about to do some world building. We have to figure out a lot about Pkwak society. And there are a lot of questions to answer. What is their method of subsistence? What are their families like? What are their politics like? What kind of economic system do they operate within? So this is the stuff that we're going to delve into right now together with the lovely chat who are here in person. And if you're coming to this video sometime in the future and you think, what is Pkwak? What is all of this nonsense? Well, check out some of the earlier videos in this series to get an idea of what this world that we're creating together is. And you can always come join us on the Discord, for which there is a link in the description. All right, so let's skedaddle off to the side and take a look at what we have here. So this is the realm. This is the part of the world in which the speakers of the language Pkwak live. And we have a few place names sorted out. We have Kluim-Sweet, the far ocean, Kluihan, our ocean, exclusive, and Pudpyakang, the place of the divide. So this area here is the oh, I was just about to say Pkwak-Bund. I'm coining a term. The Pkwak-Sprachbund, the Pkwak-Bund. Yeah. So this is where the speakers of Pkwak live. And in terms of climate, we have a Mediterranean climate. Let me see if I can scoot together the geography. Here we go. So on the west coast, we have a Mediterranean climate. And on the east coast, we have a humid subtropical climate. And that includes this little island here. So this is the area, this is the part of the world that we're dealing with. And the overall story of the Pkwak language is that it is a Sakrat language whose homeland is around here, down in the south. And through a variety of migrations and sea travel and conquest and who knows, this language family has found itself very, very widely spoken over the world, and most notably for us today in this region here. So that's where we are, and so you can sort of see this tip of this continent here, and that is where we find ourselves here. So this is zoomed in. We have a few city names worked out. We have Tsworak, Kestap, Nkidras, Drasmu, and a few other geographical features. I also wanted to point out that for those who are Biraiverse aficionados, we have Tsworak, this place name here. The Tswor in Tsworak is actually cognate with Nzlor in Kra Nzlor, which is a different group of Sakrat language speakers. But that's kind of fun. It is a root that means harbor or safety. Good. Okay. So, sets the stage. Let's go on. And again, thank you so much to Michael, who is, I believe, with us here in the chat. Yes. Mniskam. And thank you for putting this together. And thanks to everyone in the community who contributed ideas. Quain. There we go. All right. So, first thing to talk about. And by the way, this is going to be a very audience participation heavy stream because I am not by any means an expert about any of this stuff. So I'm excited to be able to learn from all of you and to sort of, I think my role here is going to be managing the suggestions and ideas that come in from the chat. So I think Pkwak, the language, has become what it is today because of the community. It has very little to do with me. So I'd like to keep that that trend rolling. All right, so we currently do not know a lot about the family structure of the Pkwak. But I think it's worth, before we go into this, thinking about the history of Pkwak speakers. So we have contemporary Pkwak-tap, which is the many birds land. This area here comes from a union or a mix of two different cultural groups. I'm trying to figure out the exact way to say this because it's a bit difficult. But we have speakers of a Sakrat language who come from the ocean, and their language displaces the languages spoken in this region beforehand. We know of one of these languages that was spoken in the area beforehand, which is called Umeti. I don't know if I'm stressing that right. Let me know. Umeti or Umeti. I don't know if we had a ruling on that. So there is a lot of material that's been created in this language, but that language forms a substrate, that language and others like it, or maybe not even like it, for a substrate, Umeti. Okay. Umeti is one of the languages that was widely spoken here before Pkwak, and it forms a substrate. And there may have been others as well. So, what seems to have happened is that speakers of a Sakrat language, which would later become Pkwak, came to this area and became culturally or economically or politically dominant, maybe all of the above. And gradually, the Pkwak language became spoken in the entire region, and the Umeti language and other pre-Pkwak languages were no longer spoken, or are no longer spoken in this region. There may be relatives that are elsewhere. So, when we think of what that means culturally, we have two very different cultural groups that have come into contact, or presumably they're very different, because they come from very different parts of the world. And so we have a lot of room to play with influences from this Pkwak, the Sakrat-speaking culture, and influences from the indigenous Umeti and other pre-Pkwak language-speaking cultures. Okay, I think I explained that decently. So, let's keep that contact phenomenon in mind as we go. Okay. Right. So, I'm going to read out what we have here, and then we can start to innovate. So, here we have, it is unclear what the family looks like for the contemporary Pkwak, based on what we currently know. There's not much known about the family structure of the earlier Pkwak either, before they migrated to the Pkwak-tap, which is our name for the region. So, it would be useful, I think, to have a name for the migrants who came with the language that would later be called Pkwak. So let's think of that. Maybe we could call them something like the Sea Peoples, as a bit of a nod to our ancient Mediterranean friends. So let's see what we can do for that. So let's find people. Okay, band, a group of people. Dwanok. Ooh, yeah, I like that. Dwanok, and then C. This is my super excellent and wonderful way of searching through here. Kes. Dwanok Kes. No, wait, Kes is, is Kes fish? I forget. Yeah, Kes is fish. Klui is sea. Thank you, ship. Ooh, okay, so Michael, Syutmot is the word for civilized person and means boat person. I don't think we have to look too much farther than that. So the Syutmot, let's call them that. So where are we? There we are. Yeah, I get there eventually. It sometimes takes me a little bit. So the Syutmot, we can call. This doesn't have to be an endonym, but this can be our name for the boat people, the people who came and brought the ancestors of Pkwak. and it's going to be Colin struggles with technology once again. The people who brought the Sakrat-B language, which would later become Pkwak. And we can do a control F replace. Ooh, that's such good thinking. All right. Now let's go back up. All right, we got a lot to do, so I don't think we can spend too long dilly-dallying. Heavens to Betsy, we have 15 pages here. Okay, so that's a definition. I finally use Control F. I do know it exists, believe it or not. Okay. So, we don't know much about the family structure of the Siut-Mot either. But we do know something about the Umeti. The Umeti are known to practice a Hawaiian-like kinship system. All female family members of your generation are Loti, and all males are Nihu. All females of a generation above are Maya. I'm assuming this is IPA. And all males are Toa. All females of a generation below are Kaishori, and all males are Tsaria. All right, so we have a Hawaiian-like kinship system. Umeti societies are based on clans which you're born into, but you may be adopted into another clan, and this is often done during a marriage. Interesting. One thing so I've been doing a bit of reading in preparation for this, and one of the books that I've been reading is Joe Henrich's The Weirdest People in the World, which is about the development of kind of the oddities of, what does weird stand for? Western, educated, industrialized, rich democracies, which a lot of people have used. You know, these are the people that psychology experiments are generally done on, usually undergrads at a big university taking a psychology class, and they get some credit for it. So the author points out that this is not necessarily representative of global psychology, and it's actually quite abnormal, the psychologies of the people that we do most of the experiments on. And so this book is a very interesting book in which he traces the development of why these weird cultures, weird as an acronym and as a descriptor, are the way they are. And one of the things that he traces is the breakdown in traditional kinship systems that happened in Europe during the Middle Ages, specifically the part of Europe under the sway of the Catholic Church. So, what's the point of all of this? The point of all of this is that societies with strong kin-based institutions tend to function in a way that's very different from the societies that gave birth to modern Europe. So if we're thinking about the European Middle Ages, we're already thinking of a society that has moved away from these traditional kin-based institutions. So anyway, that's interesting and something that we can keep in mind. So it's likely that many of the other pre-Pkwak societies have used a similar kinship system. In rural areas, each clan is its own separate village, but towns and cities were typically run by the cooperation of several clans, with the elders of the clans forming a sort of council. And this is something else that was mentioned in that book, which, I don't know. If you're interested, this is a really cool book. So the one problem with many forms of social organization is that once you hit a certain size of community, groups tend to splinter because it's hard to manage those conflicts that arise. So what happens is that kinship, which is something that's relatively innate and shared among all human experience. You know, we all have parents and close relatives, and there's some biological basis for how we interact with them in some ways. This template for relating to people is sort of scaled up to allow you to relate to other people who aren't your direct immediate family in this way. And one of these strategies is clans. So if you have a clan, you can treat people who are not directly related to you as related to you. And this enables you to coordinate labor across people outside of immediate family, which is good because, sometimes you need to do common projects. People invade you and you need to defend yourselves. So it becomes good to have a clan-wide approach. And so there's clan leadership and there's a coordination of labor that can happen in a clan. But what the problem is that going up beyond the clan level becomes harder because you can't once you've got your institution of the clan, how do you relate to other clans? There's competition potentially. So coming together among clans in villages requires mechanisms to mediate conflicts that arise. And one of those kinds of institutions could be particular religious ones, where different clans have relationships with each other that are sort of passed down in tradition, like this clan does this and this clan does that. And then you have a framework in which these clans can interact with each other. This is my sort of gist from having read this book. And I haven't even finished it, but lots of stuff in it. So the elders of the clans forming a sort of council. So this is the kind of institution that would be required to weld different clans together to be able to operate on a higher level. And this, of course, as Quayne points out, this is the origin for the game Clash of Clans. Okay. So one way in which you can have labor and relations normalized in between clans is to have distinctions that cross-cut across clans. So these are things like cult membership. So maybe everyone is divided into one of 4 cults, but I'm in clan A, but I'm a member of cult 1. You're in clan B, but you practice cult 1. We have something in common, a way to relate to each other that is outside of the clan. And so these kind of cross-cutting affiliations allow the society to be kind of knitted together. So there are different strategies that can be used. But it looks like we have a note about this very thing in the document, which is that this system of loyalty to the clan exclusively left the indigenous Pkwak divided, which is a large factor in how the Pkwak were able to conquer the region. Okay, so maybe we have very few larger units in the Pkwak that are above the clan level. So we have villages, but a collection of villages without a common, regional means of coordination. I'm avoiding saying government. I'm trying to be as sort of agnostic as possible as to what that means of coordination might be, could have dire consequences when a group comes that has coordinated on very large scales. So there's a lot to be said about the Umeti and the other pre-Pkwak societies, but one thing we can say is that they had this extensive kin-based institution system. And then we have to contrast this with the Pkwak. So if the system of exclusive clan loyalty left the indigenous Pkwak vulnerable to conquest by the Pkwak speakers, the Siutmot, the Siutmot must have had something different that enabled them to, like a sort of social, I don't know, I almost want to say like a social technology. I don't know if I'm thinking in terms of like civilization, the game and the tech tree and all that. But they had something that enabled them to coordinate across larger groups that the Umeti speakers did not. Okay, so one thing that we know that the Siutmot have is religion of some sort. They have this goddess Mnis, and religion is one of these things that can help you to scale up your society beyond this clan group. And so you get a religious victory. Yeah. So you can imagine an institution like a universalistic religion is one that allows you to see people who aren't directly related to you, who aren't in your clan, as nonetheless a kind of relative. You know, you're all brothers under Mnis, in a sense. So, yeah. Maybe that's the solution. Maybe we have some kind of a theocratic society in the Sutmot, and then that maybe warlike theocratic society then gets mellowed out as it encounters the pre-Pkwak peoples who have a very different way of viewing the world, and we get the modern Pkwak, the contemporary Pkwak notion of Mnis as a kind of ground of being, or a sort of animistic force that pervades everything. Something like that is what I'm thinking. So, chat. I know I said this is going to be viewer participation, then I rambled for like 20 minutes. What do we think? I'm going to scroll up and see. Okay, so scrolling up a bit here. Maj is saying, I like the idea of culture coming around purely to differentiate separate clans, like dances, art, and practices that only exist to be a separator and personifier of one's clan identity. Yeah, so I like this idea of clan traditions that might be very different. Maybe this is part of the sort of fractious nature of the pre-Pkwak people, is that they each have their own cultural traditions, and there isn't a kind of common language, not a common language, but a common kind of like cultural operating system. All right, so we've been talking about religion. Let's zoom down and see what we have about the Umeti religion. So go down, political organization, religion. Okay. Right, so here's what we've been talking about. The contemporary Pkwak still worship the goddess Mnis, but have depersonalized her. She's more akin to a life force nurturing the universe, hidden but ever present, like the deep layers of mycelium? Is that the pronunciation? I've never actually said that before. Beneath the forest floor. Then she is to a goddess one has a personal rapport with. This differs between religions and individual worshippers. In contact with other Sakrat peoples means concept like me can occasionally make their way into the Pkwak top. Yeah, interesting when we get contact between Pkwak and the Me people. Because I think the Me are going to be very much more intense about their goddess than the Pkwak are. But maybe the Sutmot are more like the Me in that way. I think, who was it in the Discord who said something about maybe the Me having like a god king or a goddess queen, like an ultra hierarchical society, theocratic society. Okay, so this reduction of Mnis to an abstract force of nature does not mean the Pkwak don't have personable divinities. They tend to worship Genius Loki, nature spirits of the places they're at, and there's nothing stopping alternative practices like ancestor worship from coexisting within Mnis worship. So I think this is exactly what's going to happen. We have a lot of local traditions, a lot of diversity, but then this sort of Mnis presence undergirding everything. Okay, so then the Sutmot had a protoform of this kind of Mnis worship, but it's unclear how much the abstraction of the Mnis is a recent innovation, an older tradition, or something spurred on through religious syncretism with the pre-Pkwak peoples. Okay, so I think this is something that we can make a decision on. So let's say that it is something spurred on through religious syncretism. It is not something largely that the Sutmot brought themselves. Vida, thank you so much. Yes. Vida, who I don't believe is could make it to stream today. So attribution and credit where credit is due. Great. Okay, so let's say that then. Let's say the Sutmot. I'm going to put in a new paragraph here. The Sutmot, this would be my rewriting of this, had a much more personalistic view of Mnis, which they inherited from the common Sakrat religion. I don't know exactly what we want to say about this yet, but something like a common Sakrat religion. The abstraction of Mnis is a relatively recent innovation spurred on through religious syncretism with the pre-Pkwak peoples. And then we have this really great note in here. So I'm going to replace this paragraph here. So we've made a choice. We've actually made a decision. Imagine that. So the Umeti practice, or perhaps practiced, a form of monotheism centered around the god Makote, who infuses the land with his life and essence, but must in turn be gifted life to get through the winter. The harvest festival celebrating Makote, Makotengo Ehokaluka, has become part of Pkwak culture as well as Makotengo Ehokaluka. The excess of the harvest gets offered to Makote to get him through the winter. Turnips are carved into, or to give them faces representing Makote. These offerings provide a healthy layer of insulating compost and accessible food for the plants and animals of the area, helping to maintain the balance of life through the winter. Looks like YouTube's being YouTube. Or maybe it's not just YouTube. Maybe there's something along the way. I'm going to wait and I'm not going to do anything interesting. Hey, Galactic Sin, in the immortal words of Shaggy, it wasn't me. All right, we're back. Good. Now, let's continue. So we've made our decision here. I love this. This is so rich. This detail about the Makote cult. And it's so relevant to this time of year. So happy Makotengo Ehokaloka, everyone. Nranmao. It's good now. Nran. Good. Okay. So I would be curious as to what the relationship is between Makote and Mnis. This is something that for the contemporary Pkwak. So question. What's the relationship between Makote and Mnis? Are they identified? Are they made, is one made consort of the other? Ideas? This question is already in the document. Okay. So let's zoom down to that. Okay, 7C. So let's answer here. I think Umeti doesn't have explicit gender, so Makote is a god. Thank you, Ship. And thank you, Ship, for all of this amazing work on the Umeti. Consorts. All right. So let's say then Makote is seen as a consort to Mnis. In contemporary Pkwak religion, is seen as consort to Mnis. However, Makote is a lot more personal than Mnis. Than the almost impersonal Mnis. The impersonal Mnis. So I think Makote is still someone that the Pkwak can talk to and make offerings to, whereas Mnis has become this ground of being. Okay. All right. So let's keep going. I'm seeing lots of good stuff in the chat here. So options. So we have this idea of the consort, and they're both gradually fading into impersonality, although Mnis is a lot farther along that road than Makote because of these traditions of the turnips, etc. Or Makote is an embodiment of the impersonal Mnis, kind of like an avatar situation. Or Makote is infused with the essence of Mnis during this seasonal ritual. Or there is a dualism and some people are into Makote and some people are into did I read that wrong from Jack? The Pkwak people offer and serve Makote, and Makote offers and serves Nis. So there's a hierarchy. Okay, so those are our options. I'm going to put in a cut here so we can take a few moments and ponder them and wish the YouTube people a pleasant day. And I hope that you YouTube have enjoyed a little peek into the world building process here. It has been a great deal of fun. We will come back and we will do more in the next episode. So we will see you then, YouTube.